Okay, this is a bedtime story for Farah and Gabby and Vincent and Elliot and Oliver. Oliver, are you listening? That's good. And it's called Paddington and the Tutti Frutti Rainbow. Here we go. Are you ready? Are you really ready? All right. One day, Mr. Brown took Paddington and all the family to the seaside for a treat. There they are, going off to the seaside. How many people are there? I can count 5 people and a bear. And I think there's a giraffe over there. And they're going to the seaside. Paddington sat in the front seat of the car with Mr. and Mrs. Brown. Mrs. Bird, who looked after them, sat in the back with Jonathan and Judy. There they are, see, in the car, on the way to the beach. But when they got to the seaside, it was raining. It was raining hard and there was a gale blowing. Some treat, said Mrs. Bird as she held on to her hat. Look, cried Paddington, that man's hair has blown away. Shh, hissed Judy. His hair hasn't blown away, he's bald. But Paddington pulled his duffel coat up around his face. He didn't want his whiskers to blow away. Let's go in this cafe, said Mrs. Brown. At least we'll be dry. Paddington looked back at the sea. It was very rough. I think I'll put my armbands on in case the tide comes in, he said. As they sat down at a table, Mr. Brown pointed to a picture on the wall. It showed an ice cream called a Tutti Frutti sundae. Can you say that? Tutti Frutti sundae. If you can say that, Paddington, he said, I'll buy you one as a treat. It was the biggest ice cream Paddington had ever seen, and he tried several times to say it. Tutti Frutti, Frutti, Tutti, Flutti, Tutti. But the more he tried, the harder it was. I think I may have a cornet instead, Mr. Brown, he said, sadly. It isn't easy saying Tutti Frutti sundae. Everybody laughed. And because in the end he had said it properly, the girl brought him an extra large sundae on a tray. I couldn't get any more ice cream into the glass, she said. There it is. Look at that. How's that for an ice cream? I reckon even Vincent would have trouble eating that. And Elliot. And Gabby. And Farah. Oliver, what do you reckon? What a kind nurse, exclaimed Paddington. She's not a nurse, said Judy. She's a waitress. Nurses look after people who are ill. If Paddington eats all that, said Jonathan, he'll need a nurse. Paddington gave Jonathan a hard stare. Bears are good at eating ice cream, he said. At that moment the sun came out. "I think it's going to be a nice day after all," said Mr. Brown. "Look, there's a rainbow." "Quick, Paddington," said Mrs. Brown. "Look, before it goes away." And there it is. See the rainbow? There's a rainbow in the sky, and they're in the shop looking at the rainbow. Paddington stared out of the window. He had never seen a rainbow before. "It looks just like my Tutti Frutti sundae." "And it disappears nearly as quickly," said Mrs. Bird, as the rainbow began to fade. "You must make a wish," said Judy, "before the rainbow goes." "Then we can play on the beach," said Jonathan. "I wish," said Paddington hopefully, "I wish I could have a Tutti Frutti rainbow every day of the week." And there they are, all playing on the beach. What's Paddington Bear doing, do you think, down there? I think he's making a bit of a mess, don't you think? But that's what you do on the beach. And then he sat in his blow-up giraffe thing, like you do in the pool, and he's so full of ice cream that he's just going to sleep. And speaking of going to sleep, now's the time. Good night, everybody.